Mexico. Yeah, she's teaching Bali, teaching class in literature. Yeah.
All right, folks. It's about 5:02 by my clock here. Tuesday night, downtown Ubud, Bali. It's time for. Thanks for coming tonight. We got a full house. Happy to see that. Excellent, excellent. We got a great show for you tonight. Tonight is filter number 74. Today is Tuesday, January 26, 2016. And the name of tonight's show is Bitcoin Comes Back from the Dead. So that's why we got the zombie picture up on the screen there. We got a few things to cover tonight. We've got some very interesting local news. Lots of stuff happening on the local scene. Of course, Bali is Bitcoin Mecca. We've got a Bitcoin economy, and we do have interesting things going on, things to report on locally. We've also got news from around the world. Davos just finished their World Economic Forum in Switzerland. We'll take a look at what those guys know. We've also, have you guys been watching Ether lately? Ether is just going through the stratosphere. We're going to take a look at that. I don't know exactly why that's happening, but I think we've got some Ether people in the room that might have a few things to say about that. Hopefully they can illuminate us. We shall see. Of course, because this episode is called Back from the Dead, we're going to revisit the block size debate and just the existential nature of Bitcoin's problems these days. Even though Bitcoin is back from the dead 89 or 90 times now, I think it is still experiencing some trouble. And everybody's got an idea, and we're going to try and make sense of it all together. So let me kick things off by sharing the screen with the folks at home. Just a moment here, guys. All right, so now everybody online should be seeing what we see on the screen. We are coming to you live from Hubud. This is post-apocalyptic Hubud right here. But you see, even if Hubud goes down, Bitcoin will survive. These days, though, Hubud looks like this. Hubud is the premier co-working space in all of Bali. Hopefully, if you find yourself in Bali on a Tuesday night, you will come join us here, right across the street from the Monkey Forest. They are kind enough to provide us an air-conditioned space to meet every Tuesday night. We do it rain or shine. We've got a full house tonight. Thanks for being here, guys. When we are not together in person, we hang out here in the Bitcoins in Bali Facebook group, and we have an ongoing conversation here. Basically, if you find something online that's pertinent to the stuff that we talk about, hopefully you will post it here, and then when we get together in person, we can talk about it. So I'm scrolling through some of the recently posted stories, and you'll see that some of those will come up as we get going and talking tonight. So share with the group when we're not together in person. That's how it works. Okay, local news. This past Friday, we had the second annual Bitcoin Film Festival. We had a packed house at the Paradiso. It's not a very good picture, but that's the only one I had. This thing is basically curated by some guys out of Berlin, this Bit Film production. Both last year and this year, they curate all of the films, and then these things are screened all over the world. They had screenings in major cities around the world, and it's ending January 31st. So if those of you who attended the Bitcoin Film Festival, you can still vote before the 31st of January. You vote by sending a small amount of Bitcoin to these addresses, and I think that the Bitcoins that are used for voting will be donated, or at least a portion of them will be donated. So if you went to the film fest but you haven't voted, you've got until the 31st to vote. Please check that out. I'll put the link in the show notes for you, like always, so you can find it. All right, we've also got Bitcoin 101 on February 6th. This is, what we're trying to do here in Bali is build a Bitcoin community. You know, you've reached out. There's lots of merchants that accept Bitcoin. You can do almost anything on Bitcoin. You can rent a scooter, get a tattoo, find a homestay, have a little bit of lunch, a little bit of dinner. But what the problem around the world is there's not enough people walking around with Bitcoin on their phone. Right? There's not enough users. Lots of merchants, not that many users. So we're trying to remedy that situation here, trying to create a concentration of Bitcoin savvy people. We do this every month, and the next one is on February 6th. We started at about 10 o'clock, and by noon, we're pretty much all set. We can go to a local business and have lunch together. It's a really fun morning, and definitely come check it out if you're interested, or if you know somebody, if you've already got Bitcoin, you already know what Bitcoin's all about, find a friend, send us your friends, and we'll set them up. Yes, we want to introduce them to the concept. I mean, I personally believe that communities should be doing a bit of this for the sake of their own resilience. You know, if the day comes when the ATM doesn't work, or, you know, God forbid something worse happens, you know, this is one of the safety valves that we have at our disposal. But it doesn't work unless people are plugged in and using this stuff. You know, they had the crisis in Greece over last summer, and you know, if only those people had Bitcoin, they might have been better off, or some other currency. I mean, it's.
Denmark is voting for taking all assets off of the refugees to the bare minimum. So people come with all their savings in there.
Yeah, well,
they can offload them, so they are very interested.
Yes, we've talked about that. You know, some of those refugees didn't bring their phones, because as they were passing through from the Middle East into Europe, you know, if they encountered like ISIS, for example, they would people would look at their phones and look through their phones to find out, you know, who their affiliates were, look on their Facebook and stuff. So a lot of them didn't carry phones, or a lot of you know, money too is very dangerous when you're in flight like that. And if you could just keep it in your head, you know, learn a little brain wallet, you can travel. Well, I don't want to say worry-free. I think there's other things to worry about. One less thing to worry about. But anyway, we're trying to create a little concentration here, right? We're trying to get, you know, businesses accepting it and people walking around using it, and just seeing if we can get a little bit of an economy going. So Bitcoin 101, if you go to bitcoinsinbali.org, and you can do this, register now. We can fit about 20 people in this room. And let us know you're coming so we can set a spot aside for you. All right. Well, I wouldn't say this is local news, but since we've got Meinhard in the room, congratulations on your seed fund. So what can you tell us about this year? This just happened today, was it?
Yesterday was announced, but it was in the making for maybe 9 months or something. So it was a quite long race, but kind of the money was streamed to me, so that was good. So
so you got the check.
Yeah, well, some of it partly, and like it came in installments. Yeah, after they went on the stock market, Coinseum Group, they sent the rest. But that process took very, very long. It was all really dependent on that. But they got a co-investor in, which paid straight away after signing. So that was kind of our lifeline saved there. Yeah, it was a long process, and it was always not sure if it will really happen, because they had some problems getting on the stock market for regulatory issues in London, but they finally did it at a smaller market, ISDX, and then they can also send us all of them.
Well, hopefully.
Does everybody know who you are and what you're talking about?
Well, so Satoshi Pay, it says there. We are a micropayments, nano-payments company for web content. And here is a little surprise for everyone in the room.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Very nice. All right. Some snacks. Oh, some chocolate. We got a little bit of chocolate. See, everybody who was too lazy to come down here today in the rain is missing out on the grindage. Oh, very nice.
We're all mainly based in Berlin, and 7 people are working on the project.
Cool. Stress.
I'm gonna have to ask like lots of questions so someone else is talking and it'll allow me to like grab a bite to eat. Dig in there, guys. That's excellent. Can we put one? Maybe we should put one down here.
So I'll have some of this.
One down here.
before it's all
Get
done.
in there, guys.
And maybe some glasses for the nice bottles. Anyway, so yes, micropayment, nanopayment, we make it very, very easy by building it directly onto your website. So you don't have to sign up, you don't have to download it, just works. So it generates an instant Bitcoin wallet, which is kind of your identity as well for the content you bought. And also,
Giorgio! Sorry, it's a
So,
little bit packed.
yeah.
So nano payments, like paying for content, small pieces of content, small payments.
So, well, nanopayments is the base of it, and web content is the first application of it. So we have other plans to go into the IoT space, machine-to-machine payments, these kind of things. And yeah, the sky is really the limit.
That's post-apocalypse, right? When the machines run the world and they need to have their own economy. Yeah.
Economy based on
Put out contracts on the last human surviving, etc. They need a way to pay.
Exactly. So that's the great program for that.
No, congratulations on your funding, and thank you for the spread. This is pretty cool. And last question, what are you going to do with all that dough?
Food. Yeah.
Presumably more than that. Yeah, are you going to hire developers? You're going to increase functionality? Or are you going to try and like...
It's more the second one. So developers, I think we are good at the moment. Yeah, like the team will probably stay around that size. But we'll put some money also into free credits, like quite generously. That will be our marketing tool. I don't think we'll like buy like ads next to the highway. We'll most likely put it directly into the hands of people to start using it.
So give people a little bit of Bitcoin so they can go and buy some content somewhere.
And preferably directly onto the Satoshi Pay wallet. So they come to a page, press a button, or fill out the form, like fill out a survey, and they can be credited. Because that's another future vision that it goes both ways. They don't just pay for content, but they also can earn content around the web with little small micro work actions. So that's going to come later. But we will start that with giving, yeah, like dispensing some bitcoins once they fill out the survey. Once they give us voluntarily more data, so they can basically sell their data to us. We'll have to give it for free.
What's the size of a nano payment, roughly? What's the ballpark?
Well, micropayments are around everything below 10 euros or $10, and we define nano payments around 1 cent, 10 cents. So it's not, there's no hard definition, but that's kind of the amounts we are looking at. So we have very, very small payments.
What kind of content do you provide?
That's really up to the content publisher. So we are going live in the next few days. So we are not out there yet. But we also have a feature that lets you, once you use an ad blocker, sorry, if you're a publisher and you don't want to serve your content to people with an ad blocker, that's already happening, you can give them the option to pay a small amount, like 2 cents, so that would be all content on your website, or give them the choice to switch with the ad blocker. You know, this is already happening. It's becoming an increasing problem, like with about a third of all ad revenue breaking away from ad blockers and with the tendency going up. So we are kind of, that's part of our our solution, our WordPress solution currently. And but then you can really price any content you like an image or like a PDF download. It can just be one click away. There will be a session where I also demo how it works actually from the end user's point of view. But you can always go to satoshipay.io, and we have a demo there. You can try it out.
And the WordPress plugin is soon?
It's already out there. We'll release a new version with our launch that has more features.
Ah, very cool, very cool. I'm looking forward to the day when my internet has no ads on it. And then I'll call you and thank you for that.
So that's a long-term vision to destroy all ads on the web.
Yes, yes, no more advertising. Yes, you're here. All right. Anybody recognize this handsome fella here? I've never seen him dressed that way.
Yeah.
I don't know how they come up with that.
So, anyway,
Last time I did that was like on a wedding 2 years ago.
really, you were carrying around Bitcoin pamphlets with.
In a bank?
So anyway, this is picked up by Cointelegraph, and this is Giorgio's latest infographic. And they pick it apart, but they're actually pretty favorable about everything that you've got here. Yeah. I mean, the only knock is that he's saying that in 2016 will be a growth year for Bitcoin, and here's why. He's got all these things that support that notion, and the only kind of knock on them is that well, certain things might not mean it grows in 2016, like venture capital and things like that. But anyway. This is a really cool thing. Like always, you did one other Bitcoin infographic, right? And this is your second one?
6 months ago. Yeah.
This is the second one, and you got a lot of traction with this one, huh?
Yeah, well, I built a lot of traction from the first one, and then they actually were coming up to me and saying, when are you going to do a new one?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so second time around was super easy.
One thing that I didn't see on here is Bitcoins in Bali members. This didn't make you didn't enumerate that anywhere in the infographic. So maybe next time you can. I think we got what 17 people in the room right now.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
So let's look at some of these things though. Any of these particularly stand out for you, or were you surprised by any of this info? Or
no, I mean a lot of it is sort of. I mean, that's usually what a lot of the infographics are. It's hard to like do some very up-to-date information. Most of it is kind of like a summary.
It's kind of like
take the news from the last year and sort of put it together in a graphic. That's kind of sort of what we did there.
This is something that I didn't know. I didn't realize that in terms of transaction values, where Bitcoin is really close to like Square and PayPal and bigger than Western Union. That's pretty amazing,
that was
actually.
In the older infographic, but it wasn't as clear. People were confused. So we put it in the game, but it's been like this for quite some time now, actually.
Right. Yeah. Of course, a Bitcoin transaction doesn't always represent somebody buying something.
That's the thing.
Yeah, like when I move $1 million worth of Bitcoin from one of my accounts into another account. Yeah, I didn't buy anything. I just was, trying to manage my huge stash of Bitcoin.
I mean, that's a very good point, but it's still an indicator.
It is.
It transfers,
it's still hundreds of millions of dollars, so that's impressive.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's a sad picture. Bitcoin user base, 90% male. I wanted to cry when I saw this one. Although I think in the room right now, I think that's kind of what we got going on here. We have, although I'm proud we got a good representation.
Like it's really interesting. When I remember when Stellar launched, they were saying, "Oh, we're totally different because we have they said like 80%, 40% female and stuff like that."
Oh yeah.
And the thing is though, I remember when they launched, and I don't know if you remember, like what they did is sort of like you connect your Facebook account and then you
they had the Facebook
like,
tie-in.
5,000 or something. Well, what I did is I connected my moms and my sisters and my aunts and stuff, but they're not users.
Yeah.
So I think, they were actually the only ones who were trying to say, oh yeah, we have more women and stuff, but I really believe that most of the people actually did the same thing. They were like, they told their wives, their kids, make an account. So yeah, I think that hasn't changed much yet.
That kind of looks like Oscar there. Is that like an Oscar cutout? Yeah, I think 90% men is kind of what we see almost everywhere we go. We went to the Inside Bitcoins conference last year, and that was the case. And
yeah, but you also see, like when I was at Techstars 2 years ago, there were literally in the whole office there were 3 women, and 2 of them were like the girlfriend of one of the founders or something.
So what do we got to do, ladies? Like, where are your? I think we should like do something where you bring a friend, like some sort of incentive program, or why are there no women? Why are there no women in Bitcoin? Do you think?
Technology adoption for the early adoption.
Yeah. So it's just a technology thing. It's not. We're not like Bitcoin people are not so repulsive and nerdy that the women just stay away.
There's also a case of what people use Bitcoin for.
Compared how many women are involved with technology. compared with this statistic.
Uh-huh.
We see that here women are more involved in the very positive side.
Yeah.
You cannot just say, okay, we do 50-50.
Yeah.
What'd be interesting is what percentage of transactions are made by women on Amazon, for example. So you would think that would be a lot better than 90%,
Well,
for example.
I think
so
it's
the medium is there. It's just the adoption of Bitcoin to use it in that way, right?
well, you know, I think in Western culture in general, in the Western family, I think women play a huge role in the family finances. I think they control most of what the money gets spent in the household. So
Yeah, 70% of consumer spend worldwide is controlled by women.
really,
Yeah.
And that's what we thought would have been Amazon. I just
For me personally, I would say it's really complicated. It's not easy. Like Amazon is user friendly, it's easy. Bitcoin not so much. So once it becomes more human, I think more
women will get involved.
Yeah.
I think the whole industry would benefit from the female perspective. I mean, it'd be good to. They're just not interested yet.
Need to get all the mummy bloggers onto Satoshi page. They're just
Yeah, well, the mummy blogger demographic.
Yeah.
Yes, they want to monetize their blogs, man.
Yeah, they sure
You're going to
do.
be our Trojan horse. You're going to bring women to Bitcoin and solve the advertising problem. Right. You heard it here first, guys.
But I think there's also like, I feel like also women tend to stay away every time there's like a negative connotation to things. Like one of my female friends recently visited me and she talked about it. And she was like, didn't like the CEO of Bitcoin get arrested in Japan or something? So like,
Yeah.
when there's a negative connotation, like,
Yeah, it's associated with drugs or.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's not really good for.
Yeah,
families, eh?
I would agree. That makes sense.
I don't think that's a gendered response though.
Yeah.
That's just that's a sample of one, Giorgio.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of dudes would be like, wow, that guy, is probably like
They
a
would take it
badass.
as a positive.
Yeah, some
Oh.
guys would be like, that guy's a badass. The CEO of Bitcoin in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mostly because Bitcoin is seen as a very high technological barrier usage, but it's actually not. So it's more like application problem.
Yeah.
If you want females to get on there, you have to get like the mainstream first, and then I feel like it's
Yeah.
so it's kind of like you have to get past it. So,
Okay.
I think also there needs to be more communication about the bigger why of why Bitcoin is important. Because for me personally, I didn't know that it was for example, it can be considered a silent form of protest against the current financial system. I didn't know this. And so, the more human elements of it, like I said, if you make that more, if you communicate that more women will be likely to get over the tech issues. And
Yeah. All right. Okay. Was there anything else in here, Giorgio, I mean, you guys can check it out for yourself. It's really well done, high production value, and it was picked up by Bitcoin media all over the place. People were talking about it for a few days. Oh, this is interesting. We're going to talk about Ethereum later.
This has changed.
Yeah, this has changed. You can see there were two currencies above Ethereum. We're going to talk about Ethereum in a second. This is up over 200 million recently.
Yeah.
So you'll never be done with your infographics because they'll all change in every 6 months.
Changes. That's why I plan on doing them every 6 months.
Yeah, good idea.
Are any of these backed by commodity of any sort? Gold?
None of the major ones. Nope. All right, let's talk about the price a little bit, guys. We are in Indonesia, and in Indonesia, this is the major Bitcoin exchange, the largest Bitcoin exchange in Indonesia, bitcoin.co.id. And for one Bitcoin, you can expect to pay about 5,355,000 Indonesian rupiah, right? check out bitcoin.co.id. It's kind of an interesting place to trade bitcoins if you're going to spend any time in Indonesia. Usually they're a little bit less expensive on the Indonesian market because the market is a little bit less liquid. It's a smaller pond, and if the price is moving like it is lately, and there are arbitrage opportunities, especially if you've got a Western bank account. So check those guys out. Most of the time, though, we talk about the price in terms of US dollars. So $395.22 per Bitcoin. Over the past week, it's been a pretty wild ride. As low as 385, as high as what is that, like around 420 or so. So the volatility is really crazy. Again, this is over a 1 week time spread. So lots of ups and downs. We take a look at the volatility every week, and for the last 30 days, volatility is just under 5%. Remember, for 2015, we spent much of 2015 under 2%, and for a while there, we were really low at like 1.2%, and that's good for a lot of reasons. But I don't think we're going to see those low numbers anytime soon. Things have been pretty crazy. Let's take a look at the numbers. Of course, Bitcoin is different from other currencies because it's a transparent system. We know exactly what's going on at all times. You hear people talk about the blockchain, and the blockchain is kind of an esoteric thing, but it's actually quite concrete. Right now, the blockchain has 395,092 blocks in it. Right? That we know that because it's a transparent system. Just over 15,127,200 Bitcoins exist in the world, right? That's an exact figure. That's another thing that we don't have in the modern monetary system. We don't really know what the supply of dollars is, or yen, or euros. But with Bitcoin, we know exactly how many there are. Of course, every 10 minutes or so, the average is about 9 minutes right now, but it varies. But approximately every 10 minutes, 25 baby new Bitcoins are born. They come into the world, and they're used as a reward for people participating in the system. So this is how Bitcoin secures itself. Every 10 minutes, about $9,000 worth of Bitcoin is made, and that prize goes to somebody who's participating in the Bitcoin network. Right? So this is incentivizing people to participate. Yeah. So anyway, what's interesting, coming up probably sometime this year, in fact, definitely sometime this year, this figure will drop down to 12.5. This is something that happens every 4 years. Bitcoin has what's called a halving day, right? So every 200,000 blocks, the block reward drops in half. So the inflation rate for Bitcoin drops in half every 4 years, and that's going to happen this year. Well, you only know the number of blocks, but here's a Bitcoin clock. You can kind of guess. You can see this this minute hand, or I'm sorry, the hour hand is the when this reaches midnight. That's when the halving will occur. You can see it happens every 210,000 blocks, or about every 4 years. So when this gets to 420, the second halving will take place. You could probably do the math and figure out approximately when it's going to happen. Maybe sometime in the summer.
Didn't when the latest really high spike happened, wasn't it around that time as well?
Well, this would have been about 4 years ago, and it did result in a spike in the price. But you can imagine that they're probably kind of building in the price change. It'll actually be really interesting to see what happens. You know, you've got a bunch of miners. They've purchased all this hardware and rack space, and they're every 10 minutes they're making a certain amount, and at a certain point in time they're going to make half that amount, and that amount has to be replaced by the fee marketplace that exists out in the world. So it'll be interesting to see what happens during this transition. Bitcoin was much smaller the last time this took place, so it's something to watch. In principle, it should make all of our Bitcoins more valuable, but the market may be building in that that price increase over time. Let's skip this one. So we're talking today a lot about the block size debate, and so I you know, essentially the way Bitcoin works is, you know, everybody runs the same software, and you have a consensus mechanism that always knows who owns what Bitcoins, right? But there's a scalability problem, right? This is the transactions over time, and you can see that we're starting to approach the transaction limit for Bitcoin. These huge spikes, you know, before the modern time, these two huge spikes represented what was a stress test, right? They flooded the network with a bunch of really tiny transactions just to see what would happen, and essentially you know, we kind of reached Bitcoin's max, which is about 2 or 3 transactions per second, and right now we're approaching that on a sustained basis. So we're really reaching a critical time in Bitcoin's existence. That's why people are claiming that Bitcoin is dead, that Bitcoin has got real problems. That's why that's probably a good reason why the room is full, why there's lots and lots of news about Bitcoin lately. It's really this issue right here. We're bumping up against Bitcoin's limits in terms of transaction volume. Now, it's kind of an easy fix. It's related to the block size, right? Basically the number of transactions that can go into a block in the blockchain is limited by the block size. If they could just make the blocks bigger, we could handle more transactions. But there are economic consequences to those fixes, and so because Bitcoin has no centralized control, we are at a bit of an impasse. We don't really know what to do, and it's a very interesting time to keep watching Bitcoin. So anyway, yeah, we'll be talking about a little bit more about that later. All right, getting into some of the posts that we had this week. Our man Willie posted something that said, "Hey, everybody, take a look at Ethereum. Soon it's going to take the #2 place amongst all of the what they call altcoins that are out there. Bitcoin isn't the only digital currency out there. There are others, and you know, this Ethereum has been coming on fast. You can see when this was posted back on the 24th, all Ethereum in the world was worth about $170 million. And if we look at it today, it indeed has taken that second spot, and it's worth $207 million. All of the Ethereum that's out there. So in the span of just a few days, what is that? About 50 million. $50 million in conceptual value was added to the Ethereum coin. So very, very interesting. Anybody here know about Ethereum? Have been playing with Ethereum, or have any ideas why Ethereum is the price is going up? Any ideas?
Well,
yeah, no,
Yeah.
too shy. Yeah.
I think that it's kind of yeah, some people are fleeing into this. Also after the big announcements of that followed Mike Hearn's awareness campaign, let's say.
The hernia, they're calling it the hernia,
Yeah.
the Bitcoin hernia.
So definitely people looked into alternatives as well, and then said, "Oh, I might just buy some of this." That's my explanation, because all the kind of good press happened before, like the Microsoft deals and all these things that happened before. I think people pick it up now, and they found a time to do it. I suspect.
But am I mistaken? I don't know. There's no Ethereum wallet. There's no easy installable Ethereum wallet. You have to go command line. I didn't try. I researched, and then I bought Ethereum on the exchange and I put it there. So I don't know.
You haven't braved the command line interface? I think Steven did the command line thing.
On Ubuntu, though, I don't know how it would be on Windows.
So it
on
means
Linux, it was very slick. It took me 2 seconds.
So
but
it
it
means-
just the blockchain's 2 gigabytes.
Guys, we released the Mist the Mist browser's first incarnation is basically a wallet. So we released it. It's in alpha. It's very, very user friendly and a wonderful wallet to try it out. It's directly that's directly coming from us, the foundation. So
Well, I don't put my Ethereum in alpha version. And that's my point. That no average user has bought Ethereum, or I don't know. You know how the volume is huge.
There's also online wallets if you trust them, but
yeah,
you know, obviously learning from Mangox and Cryptsy and all these kind of stuff, should be extra cautious. I mean, I would really recommend the Mist browser and the Mist wallet.
You do it? You made it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a good resource with us today.
Maybe you can show us after that. I really want to see it.
Yeah, let's take a look at that, because that was a concern of mine too. You know, you can buy Ethereum on Poloniex, right? And Poloniex will tell you have a 100 Ethereum, but you don't really control the keys. You don't really have that Ethereum until you put it into your own wallet. And well, from Ethereum itself, there's just a command line, and there's some. It sounds like there's some other options, but it's.
By the way, the currency is called Ether.
Yes. Sorry, did I misspeak?
And you're also kind of quite adamant not to call.
Not to call.
Not to call Ethereum an altcoin, really. It's like it's a bit misleading.
Okay.
It's not like a lot of these altcoins. It's just a modification of Bitcoin and
True.
Some features. It's
true.
Completely.
Well, it'd be interesting just to say, if you could say a few words about what Ethereum is, because I think it's really exciting.
I would love to, and if you guys need, I'm here for another 2 weeks, so if there's interest, maybe I can give a talk even, or I mean.
Yeah. Let's talk. I mean, I don't think we have time to do it justice now.
No, sure not.
But let's set that up definitely. And there's some other people I know.
One question. Can you make digital contracts or dApps? Digital assets. Can you create digital assets?
There's a token contract creation. There's that way where you can create tokens. Yeah.
With Mist. So if you can make a token, show us how it goes and stuff. This would be very interesting.
Maybe not now because I don't have internet.
Yeah, next week. Yeah.
Maybe next week.
So Ethereum and Ether are both very interesting. Ethereum is a Turing complete computer language that allows you to do smart contracts, and they run based on this currency called Ether, and they can just exist out in the world, kind of like Bitcoin just exists out in the world on the network. You can have these contracts or applications that exist out in the ether, so to speak, right? Basically just making their own money and paying their own way and existing on their own. It's really a fascinating concept, but we can't really do it justice today. We'll save some time where we can really.
I mean, if you guys want, I can give a few sentences at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to take your time. You know what the schedule is, man.
Yeah. Well,
if there's any time you can devote to this, I'm happy to.
Yeah. We're definitely going to take advantage of the time that you're here. Did I get anything wrong there that needs correcting, or?
Yeah, it's more or less right.
Yeah.
It's basically a blockchain secured word computer.
Right.
You can do any computation of any complexity. It's basically Turing complete virtual machine, which is resource balanced. So the idea is that for each and every operation that the virtual machine executes, your pocket is built in real time, and that's makes sure that there's no infinite room, or there's basically the whole problem is not holding the network.
Right. No.
There's a lot more to be said about this whole infrastructure and the whole vision of theory.
Yeah. Very, very exciting stuff. Very exciting stuff.
Stickers or t-shirts?
He wants some swag. But as you can see, the idea has caught on. I mean, there are. I don't want to. Ethereum is very different from a lot of these that you see, but and that's true. It's not a Bitcoin clone, but it definitely has got the attention of the Bitcoin world. You can see it's taken second place, and there are hundreds of millions of dollars in notional value associated with Ether, that engine that he mentioned that allows you to do computing on the internet or make the internet a computer, basically. Now, with the post, we've also got this thing called Rootstock, which I think is an Ethereum competitor that says you don't need a separate token to associate it with your computer language. You can just use Bitcoin. So it's interesting to think about, the role of the computer language and the role of the token. These guys are taking a bit of a different approach and not competing with Ethereum, because they say that you can still use the Ethereum logic, but it's using side chains to allow you to use Bitcoin as the coin of the realm, so to speak, instead of Ether, using side chains. Now, side chains are a new technology, and this is definitely a new technology. Ethereum, I think, is much further along than these guys, but it's just, it's the Wild West, man. I mean, everybody's doing their thing. Everybody's got an answer and a counter answer, and well, it's just an exciting time. All of this stuff is really going to run the internet of the future. I mean, it's all part of it. We're kind of seeing the dawn of a new computing age. It's a big deal.
Does anyone know the specifics of that root hook? Because, like, from what I see, it's just not happening. No one's committing to the GitHub repo, and it seems that the guys are stuck with the white paper, which is a bit.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. So our investor also just recently invested in them. So I think they are working internally on solutions, and they are just not committing to the life.
Oh, so they're not open sourcing it?
I'm sure they will. I think they are an open source project. I don't know about that specifically, but I can imagine that they might not open source everything, especially being a company, and having funding and stuff. But I can find out.
But it's an interesting question, just the general question. There was another altcoin named Namecoin that was trying to build a DNS system based on cryptocurrencies, right? And they had their own coin and their own DNS system that they were writing. And in the end, the Namecoin blockchain was not secure enough to guard against an attack. Somebody did a 51% attack on the Namecoin space, and then all of a sudden they kind of had to, well, rethink things, and they actually rebased their DNS system on Bitcoin instead of Namecoin, just for the sheer security that Bitcoin was offering them. So it's an interesting question. How much do you need to associate a coin or a token with what you're actually trying to do, or can you separate those things? Are those separate layers of the computing model or not? We're kind of, I mean, this whole thing is like building kind of an OSI layer for economics, right? How do things stack up, and how do you separate the concerns? And we're still trying to figure all that out.
Namecoin was basically one of the signature examples at Ethereum's inception, because the whole idea was that to show that Namecoin can be implemented in 3 lines of code on Ethereum smart contract.
Yeah.
So that was one of the examples that was printed on
I think I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, Ethereum is an amazing thing. It's definitely worth our time. We'll check it out for sure. Okay, next item of business. This is an actual picture from Davos, right? It's sponsored by Credit Suisse, so I think they're just trying to be cool. And Satoshi, of course, is the mythical inventor of Bitcoin. Nobody really knows who Satoshi is. He's this mysterious man that, shortly after Bitcoin was invented, he dropped out of the scene, and he's got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin just sitting there. He's never touched it. Very mysterious fellow. So this is kind of a joke, thinking that maybe Satoshi is somewhere in the crowd at Davos. Davos, of course, is the World Economic Forum. Every year, pretty much everybody, I didn't get my invitation this year, but everybody else was, anybody who's anybody, and a lot of people who aren't anybody, at least in terms of economics, go to Davos. It's like a red carpet affair. I think Will.i.am was there this year. That kind of says a lot. But the World Economic Forum, they go to this really picturesque village in the Alps, and they talk about stuff, right? It's more than just economics. I mean, you couldn't get pop culture icons there if you weren't talking really big picture. And what the main thing they were talking about this year was the the fourth industrial revolution. Have any of you guys taken a look at this World Economic Forum or what they're talking about? Basically, it's the automation of everything. Basically, you know, humans need not apply kind of thing. Like all of these things, you know, there's millions of jobs that are going to be automated away. And what are we going to do about it? They're referring to it as the fourth industrial revolution, right? You know, in the States, you go to McDonald's and there are all these kiosks where you can order, right? So you don't even interact with a human being when you're ordering McDonald's anymore. And they're also talking about automating lots of white-collar jobs, especially in jobs like the legal profession. You know, there are robots that can do e-discovery, right? They used to, when somebody sued somebody and you know, your company got a subpoena, usually like 25 lawyers would show up and they'd start going through your file cabinets. And these days, all the records are electronic, so they can just put a basically the equivalent of a computer virus into the company's intranet and do e-discovery automated. So there's 25 lawyers that have nothing to do, right? So you used to think that, you know, doctors, lawyers, white collar folks wouldn't have their jobs automated away, but where this new fourth industrial revolution is going to change a lot of things in our lifetime. Hopefully we'll automate some of those bankers away using Ethereum and smart contracts, and Bitcoin too will play a role. But it's you know, it's a bit kind of packaged and staged and you know, moving a lot of big narratives forward. You know, these are the powerful of the powerful. But it's still worth checking out and seeing what they're talking about.
Hopefully, a lot of like these crazy bureaucratic jobs will be.
Yes, hopefully we can. This, in principle, this should free us up to do more art, write more poetry, do more blog entries. But what's interesting, I mean, it's really fascinating to me that we're busier than ever these days. That somehow we've become way more productive, but we're way busier and way more stretched and way more stressed. I think John Adams, he was the second president of the United States, and he said, I study war so that my children can study art. There's a famous quote, I probably butchered it a little bit, but you know, the idea was that you know, you can get these mechanized things out of the way so that we can move on to more beautiful human endeavors. But we haven't seen that. I have some ideas about that. I feel like it's partially the way money works and the way the money system and economics work in the modern world. It's one of the reasons why it's so exciting to work on things like Bitcoin, because a lot of the abundance that we should be enjoying now, because of all the automation, is we're not experiencing that, right? It's being siphoned away to other places, and things get more expensive, and
between rich and poor has gone astronomically different than it used to be. So that automation is probably going to create a lot of us on the street going, how do these laws and slavery?
True.
Yeah, there's dystopia, science fiction views that we see. It's
could happen.
Something else for that to not be done.
Well, you know, I think it's part of a larger trend. I mean, the mega trend of our time, I might be biased, but I feel like it's decentralization. Like, we're not going to be able to look to the powers that be to make sure we have a hamburger to eat. You know, it's going to be decentralized money, decentralized food. We're going to be doing a lot more things locally, which is probably a good thing. You know, we'll see what really happens. But
when, I guess, resources are privatized, that's a contentious issue, like water being bought out and, you know, Nestle wanting to charge people for water. It's just going to be an interesting time to navigate.
Even laws in New Zealand where people are not legally meant to be able to provide food to other people. So I can't cook food and provide it to you. Like, they're putting laws in to try and centralize all that stuff. That's, you know, Maori people or Indigenous people have had a whole history on sharing and community stuff. They're messing with all of that legally. And this is New Zealand. It's meant to be kind of
hygiene.
I think so.
That's the justification.
Yeah, which is just, you know, look at deaths yeah, just.
Well, it's interesting when you really get down to it. You're seeing it in all kinds of areas, like Uber. Like if I take my friend to the airport, like you know, technically I'm breaking some sort of taxi cartel law or regulation. And I feel like there's so many laws, so many regulations. And so much of the political process is co-opted by those corporations that stand to make a lot of money from those laws and create barriers to entry for normal people. That it's a very bad situation, and one that we're like I said, I think we're gonna see these things come to fruition in our lifetime. That's why it's cool that there's so many people show up to something like this. You know, it says Bitcoin meetup on the door. But I mean, it really is a bigger thing going on. You know, there's lots of things changing in the world, and you know, these folks at the World Economic Forum, they want to make more rules, and they want to make rules that transcend national boundaries, and that's the really disturbing trend. It's like a countervailing force to the decentralization is the one world government and the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the TTIP and these things that.
Banking.
Yeah, central banking. You know, you can see it happen with Greece, right? They had a referendum. Like, do we want to take the bailout deal from the European Central Bank? And they said no more austerity. And then the ECB and the leaders of Greece itself were like, well, whatever you said, we're just going to ignore it. I mean, democracy, especially it's especially poignant happening in Greece, the birthplace of democracy, and such a stark picture of no democracy taking place. Yeah.
I think in every country, the corporations can now sue governments around the world if they get in the way of their profits. And that's suing, they can sue in Canada, Australia, South America, United States. The corporates now are getting more power than democracy anywhere.
Well,
so that's one of the movements that's happening. Oh, they've already taken governments to court. You know?
Right. Well, and if you look closely, what's the court? The court is a court of yeah, it's corporate lawyers but anyway, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, even it might be what you say about an action in the Netherlands that Agenda, this environmental group, took the Dutch government for European court of not honoring their commitments to the European community for environmental for the climate change issues. They were just way beyond the program of what they signed for. So, and then the European court said, yes, that is not good. Now the Dutch government is trying to going for appeal against that verdict of the European court. It's crazy. The government, democratically chosen, going against their own citizens who won basically in the European court. It's really crazy. No democracy anymore.
And who has the money to, fight these court battles and all that stuff? So have you talked about the run on the banks that I heard is happening in Italy today?
No, there's something.
Well, I went to somebody's house and said it's already begun because I was telling them about Bitcoin, and he said, there's a run on the banks in Italy right now. So I was hoping somebody might have.
Oh,
I'm really coming tonight. The Bitcoin might go. All around the world, people see. All we need to do is see one country where people are finding that it's empty. What's behind the dollars, as you've been talking about. And then all the other countries are going, whoa, what alternatives have we got? So, I think we want to be very good with this Bitcoin or whatever other alternatives we want to spread it with. But just be aware that this might have already started.
Wow.
So, I haven't seen it on the internet myself, so maybe check it out later.
Well, even if it's not true or if it's partially true, it's believable, right?
Yeah,
and these things are, Greece is in trouble, Italy's in trouble, Portugal's in trouble, Ireland's in trouble. We play that funny clip about all of them owing each other money. I don't know if all of you have seen that, but
Won't be
it's
so funny.
well, there's one. If there's going to be any silver lining to this whole thing, I mean, I really believe that there's an economic reset coming. And when it does, it's going to be somewhat painful, more painful for some than others. But it'll also give us a chance to kind of help one another and rediscover, what's really important in the world, that money isn't the bottom line, literally. But we'll see. We'll see.
It's
But,
out of the ashes, right?
that's right.
It's
But,
something for something new to be born sometime.
Yeah, but I'm glad to see so many people coming to these, and like the interest level is on the rise, and the more people that have like a little bit of a safety valve and have started thinking about these things earlier, the better off we'll be. So kudos to you guys. We're almost out of time. Let's see if there's anything else that we can talk about here. This is an interesting article posted by Steven, Bitcoin Dead, Not the Part That Matters. Again, you know, kind of, this article talks a little bit about how the thing that's broken is the politics. In fact, I think I've got highlighted down here. Where is it? Yeah. This isn't a technical issue, it's political. Scaling Bitcoin's protocol in particular, resolving the heated debate over increasing the data capacity of blockchain component blocks is a much knottier problem than can be solved with a software fix. So it's not a technical problem. A solution requires competing Bitcoin stakeholders to negotiate a deal in an environment in which there is significant money at stake, there's no ultimate arbitrating authority, and arguments play out in public forums like Twitter and Reddit, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, the real experiment that Bitcoin is can human beings create something that is totally headless, right, with no central authority? You put out this set of rules, and, you know, after you've kind of set it loose, you can't really change the rules unless everybody agrees, right? And can human beings cooperate around these things? That's the real question, and that's the Rubicon that Bitcoin finds itself crossing at the present moment. You know, there's all kinds of very valid technology fixes out there, and the real problem is the politics. And I think this would probably come up with Ethereum as well, when there are smart contracts and you're releasing a smart contract into the wild, and, you know, something happens and it needs changing, or it needs some sort of arbitration. I would be watching this space very carefully, because it's fascinating. Human beings have never tried to do this before. We've always had power structures to resort to in these circumstances, and we don't have those anymore. We're actually deferring to the algorithms. You know, the machines have begun to take over already, right? We can bring it full circle with the zombies, right? But, you know, in a lot of ways, I think the machines can do this better than we can. And I would say that a lot of the shenanigans are due to human foibles and frailties, and there are things that we can give away to nature, right, or give away to math that will make a fair system for everybody. You know, sometimes I compare Bitcoin to gravity. You know, gravity is just like a force of nature, and nobody can affect how it works. And that's a good thing, because if like the US government could control gravity, they'd say, hey, let's make it way more heavy in Pakistan than it is in the United States, right? Which is what they do with monetary policy, right? They play those games with money, right? They play, you know, currency wars. What if we could make money like gravity and make it fair for everybody, so that a day's work is a day's work is a day's work? I mean, that's a cool vision. But
on the other hand, the trouble seems to be that now the inertia is kind of stifling the.
Yeah, but wait for a country or two to fall when everyone's running the banks, and that might change it really fast.
I'm just talking about the block size debate. It seems that, like,
oh, I see.
It's like the network is having such an inertia that no one is kind of willing to change to use a different fork. So it's kind of, if it becomes too restrictive, then it might hurt the system. Although it seems to live quite well.
It's still working.
Collapse either, so.
Well, we are currently just about out of time, and I was going to talk about some of those alternatives, some of the debates that are raging within the Bitcoin world about how to do things. How are we going to agree on doing things differently? But we really didn't get there. Is that something that would be of interest, or is that kind of getting too technical? Because I'm trying to figure out where to take the conversation next time around.
Hands up, who's interested?
Yeah, anybody interested in because we can spend more time next week on the various alternatives and who's saying what about what and why, and try and stay we might have to talk a little bit about technology, but so that it's got broad interest, I want to talk about how the conversation is taking place, right? How are we arguing? How are we deciding? How will the decision be made? And what happens if no decision happens as well?
Do you feel personally that it will work out?
Something will work out. The idea behind Bitcoin will not go away. But maybe Bitcoin could die and Ethereum could take its place, or Bitcoin could exist in some kind of atrophied, marginalized space, and something behind it could, with a built-in political structure, like maybe an algorithm-based consensus mechanism that allows the politics to be automated. Talk about maybe that's the fifth industrial revolution, where we automate all the politicians out of work. That's pretty cool. Maybe we can move that forward into the fourth. I doubt they were talking about that at Davos. Automating their own jobs away. I don't think so. Anyway, thanks for coming tonight, guys. That's all the time we have. I just want to remind you, we've got Bitcoin 101 happening on February 6th. If you know somebody that might be interested, please send them our way, or come yourself. It's a fun morning. Even if you know something about Bitcoin, you can watch me try and explain it to people who have no idea what it is. And I'm always open to criticism. And of course, before that date arrives, we get together every Tuesday night at 5 o'clock right here in this room. We'll do so again next Tuesday, and I hope you guys will come back, and we'll continue the conversation then. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you. A picture of you all. Does anyone object to being in a picture?
No, let's do it. Back.